Morning, IBTTA. Did everybody have a great night last night? Yeah, it's great to be here on Tuesday morning. So I'm really excited about how we're gonna jumpstart this morning and launch this. I know we've got a fantastic financial report coming up from George. I can't wait to hear that. But before we get to that, I'd like to we'll start with a quiz. And that quiz is, what do a roofing contractor, and a taco guy have in common with each other? And what can we as tollers learn from them? It's a pretty strange mix, but I think we'll find out in the next 20 minutes or so how that works. So this morning, Orange County entrepreneurs and philanthropist Charles Antis, the owner and founder of Antis Roofing, celebrating their 30 years in business here in Orange County, and Wing Lam, the co-founder of Wahoo's Fish Taco, also an icon here in Orange County, will share with us their passion for giving back to the community and tell their story of how they came together during the pandemic to create a movement called the California Love Drop. The California Love Drop started in April of 2020, initially as the delivery of 300 meals to Hoag Hospital here in Irvine, California. And the mission was simple. The mission was to put a smile on the faces of frontline heroes of the pandemic. Charles, Wing, and this network, this movement that they built that involves TV stations, radio stations, Monster energy drinks, they'll tell you all about it. They came together, and with their incredible volunteers during the last 18 months, they've delivered more than 30,000 meals and much needed supplies to hospitals, nursing homes, police, fire stations, testing sites, and they fed the elderly and the homeless. They filled trunks and boxes with food. They provided backpacks filled with school supplies and toys for kids during the holidays. Their message is sure to inspire and motivate all of us this morning to make great things happen. So please join me in giving Charles Antis and Wing Lam a warm welcome to the IBTTA family.
Did he turn us on? Yes, we're on.
We are on. Thank you, Greg. Thank you. And that's a great question. What does a roofer and a taco guy have in common? Well, I think to answer that question, I got to take you back in time. 30 years ago when Antis Roofing was born, and I got to tell you, I didn't have a lot of work. I only got a couple of calls a week because I became the very best at solving leaks in homes. And one day I got a call from a lady, and she had leaks in every room. And I'm like, yes. And I'm driving out to the home the next day. It's in Los Angeles. And I'm turning and I'm in the neighborhoods, and I'm noticing the homes are getting smaller and more disheveled. And then I saw some graffiti on a house. And till finally I turned on the street where the home would be, and I just saw dead grass and this home set back. But I went up and knocked. And I knocked on the door, and three things happened I'll never forget. First, a woman answers the door. She's about 50 years old, and she has a really tired look on her face. And I'm going to say something, but before I can say something, the second impression hits me. It's the smell of mildew, and it's so strong it nearly knocks me down. Now I want to leave. It's like fight or flight. What am I going to say now as I leave? But as I start to leave, I feel something, and it's a tug at my finger. And I look down, and in contrast to the mom's face and my face, I see this little girl with long hair and a big smile, 6 years old, who has a visitor in her home. And so she pulls me in, and we go inside this crowded living room into this undersized hallway, and then she turns right into her bedroom. And I could tell it was her bedroom because she points to a unicorn poster on the wall with this big smile. But at that exact moment, I looked down at her feet and saw a mattress with moldy bedding. This was not a pleasant experience. This girl was really cute, and she was nice, and she was happy to have a visitor, but I was looking at a family that had no money, and I needed to make a mortgage payment in 2 weeks. I needed to make money, and this wasn't fitting, and I didn't know what to do. She was really cute. She's smiling until finally the mom walks back in the room with that same expression, opposite of her child, and something came out of me that I never remember saying before. I said, I'm going to take care of your roof. whoa, what did I just say? I remember when I said it, I thought, oh my gosh, did I just tell a lie? I don't even know what's wrong. And I was hoping that it would be a small act of repairing the roof. And I went up on the roof, and it wasn't a leak. It was the whole roof gone. I mean, I could see plywood. And so I had a dilemma. I got on the phone, and I got 6 volunteers because I didn't have any employees yet in my young company. And that Saturday, we went out there, and we gave that family a dry roof. And do you know what that felt like? I mean, in contrast to what it felt like earlier in the week when I walked in that room, I was uncomfortable with that little girl having that need that I didn't know I could do anything about until I thought in my mind, maybe. And then here we are with these volunteers, these 6 people, and we're like high-fiving, we're hugging. I'm hugging people that don't normally hug. I mean, what is this? The children, there were 6 siblings. All of them had the same color hair. They came out, and they participated, and we high-fived. And you know what else happened? Every time I met one of those people, from then on, every time I met one of the volunteers, one of the siblings, it was the same thing. What is this thing that we feel? We're alive. Well, that became who we were. We discovered as a company, we quietly discovered that we couldn't let a family have a leaky roof just because they didn't have the money to pay. And so we ended up giving away a lot of roofs. And then when Habitat for Humanity called a dozen years ago and they said, hey, will you give us a roof for a local veteran family that needs a home? I said, yeah, sure. And we've donated a lot of roofs since then. We'll talk about that later. But that ends up how I ran across this guy, the founder and CEO of Wahoo's Fish Tacos, because I met him at these nonprofit events. I discovered I could give away roofs and keep people safe and dry. He discovered he could keep people fed that were hungry. And we met at a nonprofit event, and I heard him speak. And when Wing speaks, he tells stories about water polo, about kung fu, about scrappiness. But then he talks about giving. And I want to introduce you to my friend. How did you come to be, Wing, and how do you give so much?
Well, the most unlikely place for a Chinese Brazilian to land was in Orange County in 1975. Because my dad was already here. He had a very successful Chinese restaurant, and he needed free labor. So the kids, we all had to move up here. So here's the deal, right? Not speaking any English, went to high school, and they said, hey, if you maybe participate in something extra after school, it'll help you learn English. So they said, you have the choice, right? Pick up any sport. And I said, okay, 1975, if you remember this, very few kids played soccer in America. And the ones that did spoke Spanish, which I already spoke Spanish. So that wasn't going to help my cause. So they said, there's another sport just like soccer called water polo. I'm like, great idea. I'm going to go play water polo. They forgot to mention one little detail. You have to swim in order to play water polo. So here I am, 14 years old, 1975. I learned to swim when I was 12 years old because as Asians in the 70s, you were told not to do anything that was contact related. So tennis, golf, piano, and violin are like at the top of your food chain. Anything that had to do with contact, you say, you know what, you might get hurt, so don't do it. So here I am, I wanted to swim, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna play water polo. So if you know anything about water polo, there are 7 kids that played the game. There were 32 kids on the freshman squad. I was number 31 on the depth chart. That means after garbage time is over, that's when I got to go in the pool. So I'm like, this is not going to help my cause. So I had to do something because I wanted to play and I wanted to learn English. 2 things that were going against me. I can't swim and I can't understand what a word the coach is saying, right? So the only thing was there was a show on TV called Kung Fu. David Carradine played a Shaolin monk that spent the entire show getting picked on, and at the very end of the show, he rolls up his sleeves and kicks everybody's butt. So I'm like, And we all seen those movies, right, with the bullies. It never works in real life, trust me. But I'm like, what do I have to lose? In all of Southern California, in 1975, there were 4 Asian kids that played water polo. I was one of the 4. So I'm like, what are they going to do? They're going to have to assume that I know something that they don't. So I saw the movie, and trust me, I was not a kung fu fighter because I never really fought in my life. But I said, well, I got to try it because I want to play. So the game of water polo is played below the water. What you can't see, you can't call. Think about that for a second, right? And the referees in any sport never see the first hit. They only see the second, the retaliation. That's why you see a lot of athletes arguing with the referee. He goes, didn't you see that? If the ref had seen it, he would have called the first, not the second. So I learned about all the rules, and what I did is I learned how, just like in any sport, if you have an advantage situation, the guy on the defense is going to get called for a foul. So my only thing is I couldn't swim. I just had to get in front of my guy. And then what I would learn to do is wrap him with one leg and kick him with the other in his privates. Well, if you know with water polo, you're supposed to play with your hands up so we can see you. What do guys do? They put their hands down to protect their privates. And automatically, this guy would get ejected out of the pool. So I became the leader of our team in kickouts, and it's called power play in hockey. It created a great advantage for us so we could score easily. So that's how I learned the game. I became one of the dirtiest players in all of Southern California. Okay? So in doing so, I figured out it would give me playing time, because as long as I was in the pool, our number of kickouts would just go up, which means we could score a lot easier. So I figured out I got to do the dirty work, the things that nobody else wants to do. And when I opened my restaurant, that's what I did. I went out. I couldn't wait for the customers to come in. I went out and found them. Now, fast forward, right? 30 years later, the pandemic hits. Overnight, I remember, from Tuesday night, we're at a concert. Wednesday morning, they announced all non-essential businesses, you're going to have to shut down. In the fine print, restaurants were not included, but everything was non-essential. So literally, by Friday of that week, 85% of our business was gone. Why? All the offices were closed. So our lunch trade was gone. So we had to scramble. By Saturday, we literally furloughed 85% of our staff. So we left them everything. Take the rice, take the beans, take everything. But we still had stuff left over. And I'm like, this is going to perish it. So what do we need to do? I got together with some of my event friends. He goes, let's go out and start delivering this stuff, right? But then I says, well, everything got canceled. So I guarantee you, all my friends that had money earmarked for the charity events coming up, we're all going to get canceled. So they're going to be sitting on all the stuff. So I says, we need both two things. We need supplies and we need funds. So I started dialing for dollars and going out and starting deliveries. And that's where I say, Charles, what are you doing? Nothing. None of my friends were doing anything. So we went to Chalk Hospital after Hogue. Because Hogue, this guy was like sitting in the back, goes, this is so uncomfortable. What are we doing here? Everybody's got masks on, gloves on, shields. We had everything. And when we got to Chalk, what happened?
Well, I'll tell you what happened at Chalk, because I was uncomfortable, but remember what was going on then. But I also remember Wing, that first time I heard him speak when I met at that nonprofit event. And Wing said he believes in this philosophy, always doing the best at what you do and always saying yes to asks. So when we talked on the phone and you asked me to participate, I pinched myself. I had a bruise later as I said yes. And I went there even though I was scared, even though I was safe at home, and I went to this hospital where there was COVID. And I went there, and I want to tell you something. I was wearing these socks. I'm going to tell you why I wear these socks and why Wing wears them now too. That's because I'm on the board of Orange County Ronald McDonald House, that place that keeps families close to their sick kids so they can heal. And the reason I'm on the board is my children, twins, Charlie and Gracie, were born 7 years ago, premature. And this happy pregnancy with my wife, Dawn, and I went from everything healthy overnight, preeclampsia, and then she's in the hospital, and now the babies are out premature, and it's traumatic, and they're in NICU. They weren't breathing at first. There's bells and whistles going off. And so what the Chalk nurses, the children's hospital nurses and doctors told me was, Charles and Dawn, you need to come in here every day twice for 2 hours, pull off your shirt, and lay Charlie and Gracie, one on each chest, skin on skin. And you know why? They said that will give them the best chance to heal. And so, you know, we were there every day. And then one day I'm going in and the Ronald McDonald House station is right there. And the Ronald McDonald House attendant is saying, hey, we keep families close. Come, you can spend the night here. You can eat this food. You can work on these computers. Anything that'll help you be comfortable with your family. And you know what I did? I ignored them. I ignored them because I was feeling sorry for myself and I didn't want to acknowledge where I was. I didn't want to acknowledge it. I just wanted to help my child. And one day I showed up and I was late. I was late because I had indigestion. I had chronic heartburn. It was so bad, there was no way I was going to be able to do skin on skin, and I've never missed it. And that day I showed up to go into the CHOC unit, the Children's Hospital unit, the NICU, and I looked at the Ronald McDonald station and no attendant was there. The nice, smiley attendant was not there, and I looked down and I saw a small green Nature Valley granola bar. You know that some donor had given to someone like me, and I took it. I took it with no intention of ever paying it back. I took it and I ate that bar, and I have no memory of what happened except for about an hour and a half later. On that day, I'm in the Children's Hospital NICU with my shirt off, back on that reclining chair, and Charlie, my infant son, is asleep on my chest and I have no heartburn. And that's the day I got it, and that's why I wear these socks. And that's why Wing wears them now with me. Once he heard the story, he started wearing them. But on this day, I showed up wearing those socks and pants. Nobody could see them, and I was scared. I was scared because I didn't want to be at a hospital. I didn't make the connection, and Wing was having me hold this food and hold this red wagon. You remember that? And all of a sudden, I looked up and I saw doctors and nurses coming toward me. And I realized this is the same people that told me how to stay close to my kids so they can heal. And they did. They are healed. Charlie and Gracie are very healthy 7-year-old twins today. But these doctors were coming out, and this time they'd been working doubles because the Children's Hospital doctors and nurses were doubling to help COVID patients. And we were able to say thank you in real time. And do you know how that made us feel? I mean, for the first time since everything turned sideways in the world and all of our habitat builds were shut down and all of our Meals of Love at Ronald McDonald House were shut down, and suddenly in that moment we felt alive. We were awakened, and that's what we wanted to do. And then Wing said, let's go to a senior center. We go to a senior center. And then he says, go to a police department. We go to a police department, and the police chief comes out in tears and he said, I want to tell you something. During the civil unrest, this is the first gesture of kindness that we've received here in months. And we got to see that and be a part of it. We got to involve our networks, all of those that we sell to, all of those that are our stakeholders, and have them come out and do it with us. And we got to go deliver to fire stations that are sending their trucks, their engines, and their people all around the state, even now to protect our homes. It became really powerful. We became scrappy like some kung fu water polo kid. And that's when we really started to have impact. And Wing, can you tell you how you built that network?
So, part of me was not only trying to keep my stores going, because literally we were down from like 15 employees to about 3 per store and barely keeping the lights on because there's nobody coming in. So just like 30 years before I went out and found the customers, this case was finding the frontliners that we could take care of. So I started calling all my friends, Monster Energy Drink, Hint Water, Cliff Bar, everybody that had supplies and everybody that I knew could do, provide the labor and all that. And all of a sudden we found ourselves saying, well, let's create this team. What are we going to call it? Goes, let's call it the California Love Drop. But the big thing is, Wendy from KLOS goes, well, how can we help as a media company? So having the biggest radio station in Southern California have their DJ said, we're not only going to talk about you, we're going to give you money. Let's use our listener database to create a GoFundMe page so we can spread the word out and get money for you guys to whatever you guys need to do. So having these amazing brands together allowed us to go. So imagine the nurses when they would see us with the food, with the drinks, with the snacks, and then Vans, which is, if you guys know anything about Vans, one of the largest shoemakers in America, all their events got canceled. So I called Steve and I said, hey, Steve, the founder's son, and he goes, what are you doing with all the bandanas, the trucker hats, all the things you had set aside for the events this summer? And the answer was, nothing. Can we have it? He goes, absolutely. So imagine taking pink bandanas, checkered, to the nurses. So the look on their face is like, oh my God, this is for us. He goes, yes, for taking care of us. So Orange County is doing, again, we're going everywhere. Long Beach, San Diego, Riverside. And then we get a call from, of all places, I call it, if you know anything about LA, in every city there's, I call it, the great part of it, and then there's the not so safe part of it. So Watts, we get a call from the sisters of Watts, and if you thought Charles was uncomfortable going to a hospital with me, imagine guys from Orange County going to the inner city. So.
Yes, I was uncomfortable going to Watts. It was 105 degrees that day in the inner city. And there's a lot of stuff going on, and some of it I'm not familiar with, but there was food that we were delivering into cars. There was meals we were delivering. We were delivering backpacks and supplies from sponsors like Vans and Nike. Galaxy was there with us, but it was 105 degrees, and I wasn't necessarily comfortable, but I showed up because I've learned to say yes to this guy, and then something happened to me. Once again, as I was grabbing the Yogurtland churro and Pop Rock flavored Yogurtland and handing each one in the back seat of the little kids that were rolling down their window, who had been waiting hours, many of them without air conditioning, to get their food and supplies. And I got to have that moment when they lit up and said, thank you. And I got to see that and high-five the team, and we felt that they were awakened, we were awakened. Why do we do this? Because we're awakened in the moment. We feel alive. Why do I do it? Because my people that work for me, our stakeholders, they're awakened in the moment. And it really comes down to one thing. It's what Wing and I talked about all those years ago. There's three components. Be the best at what you can do, always say yes to asks, and remember that every relationship matters. And really, this is it. Wing, what do we call this?
This is the world's tiniest shaka. Does anybody know what that means? This is the aloha sign, is that, hey, hang loose, you're part of the clan. So we thought we'd create this movement about the community because we're supporting it. So we wanted to share that with you guys today because it's all about empowering you guys and sharing what we've gone through because any of us can do it. Taking something very, very small, but making a huge difference out of it. So if you guys will join us.
Before, we got to talk about the impact, though.
Yes.
Let me tell you what these little acts of love do. Where we're going to go as soon as this is over is we're going straight to Antis Roofing headquarters in Irvine, where we're having today our 52nd blood drive with the American Red Cross. You see, when the pandemic occurred, there was nowhere that we could get blood. We had the space, we cleaned it up, and we've had our 52nd. You know why that matters? Is that today we're collecting up to our 4,000th life-saving unit of blood. 4,000 life-saving units of blood, all of them getting a love drop. And you remember these socks we're talking about right here? Well, these socks are pretty important because I've been wearing them for a long time. We were at Camp Idlewild, Ronald McDonald House, 2 months ago, where we celebrated 200 roofing companies across the country that have adopted every roof on every Ronald McDonald House so all the families across the country can be safe, dry, and close when they need it the most. And that was our initiative based right here in Orange County. And next week, we're going to announce that we have raised $13.7 million to double the size of Orange County Ronald McDonald House, where I serve on the board. And Wing's been rocking the socks with us for the last 18 months. And let me tell you, every small act, every day putting on those socks matters. And remember, Habitat that I said I started to donate the roofs to? Well, on Friday, the love drop came to all the volunteers where we drove the 500,000th nail into the 176,000th roofing tile so we could keep 85 families in a row safe and dry. And you know why we do that? It's because of this. Thank you. 76% of the people in those homes that we've given roofs to have gone on to further their education after high school. Now that's worth applauding for right there. I'm sorry. So we get to participate in that. And it really matters. We get to do these simple things. We get to bring people together, and we get to do these simple acts. So I think we need to teach you how to do the mini shaka, and Wing's going to take you through a pledge.
Greg, come on up here. Join us here. He's another surfer that he's in disguise today.
Start practicing. It's not easy. It's not easy.
So if you take your hand, everybody right here, get your right hand with me. Okay, take the middle finger and put it over the index, bring it down, and then put your thumb right there.
Valerie's got it right there. She's nailing it.
Can you see it? Okay? Now everybody pledge with me here. I'll be my best.
I'll be my best.
I'll always say yes.
I'll always say yes.
And we're better together.
And we're better together.
Please, you guys, when you see each other around the conference, give yourself each other the little tiny shaka. And please join us in this amazing movement. You can reach out to us at californialovedrop.org. We'd love to have you guys join us in physical if you live in Orange County or anywhere in Southern California, or email us, and we'd be happy to show you guys how to do it in your hometown. So thank you guys. Have a great conference.
Thank you. Thanks, Greg.
Good job, guys. Great job.